Change is hard. A lot of people have this ideal that they want to attain. They have this, idea in their head of who they could be, but who they currently are is not anywhere near that. And they want to change. I mean, you see all these New Year's resolutions made, and they're trying to reach that ideal, and they say, okay, these are the huge actions that I need to take. And they do these huge things, and maybe it works for a little while, but majority, the most often, those steps that they took to become a new person, a better person, it falls away, and nothing in their life ultimately improves. And they're stuck in the cycle of wanting to change and knowing that there's a better version of themselves that they could be, but never actually reaching it. And in my life, I have always, there's always a new version of myself to attain to. There's always a better version, an ideal, because you're never there. And so it's a state of, striving and becoming. But there have been some micro habits, some micro changes I have made that were within my capacity that influenced, they changed my life in a way that was very beneficial, and it took almost no effort to make the change. Once I made the decision, it was done, it was locked in, and then I got to enjoy the fruits of it, and it was helpful. So today I'm going to go through those 5 changes I made, and if any of those sound appealing to you, enticing, those changes, I'll tell you what the results are, and maybe you can implement them in your own lives as well. Okay, so the first habit that I implemented is I made a rule that I couldn't take my phone into my bedroom. A lot of people will talk about how they set their alarm on their phone and they wake up and then they start scrolling in the morning and they get into this horrible cycle. And so I realized if my phone doesn't come into my bedroom, that makes it a lot easier. And it's not even a question of, am I going to scroll on my phone? Because it is, it's not an option if it's not in my bedroom. And so that was very, very beneficial. And there are exceptions to that. If I'm taking a phone call, typically I'll come into my room. If I'm recording content, I will, and I need my phone and I need to record in here, I'll bring my phone into my room. But the general rule of thumb, which had high benefit for me, is you don't bring your cell phone into your bedroom. And, just typically, if I'm on electronic, as I was building that self-responsibility to, always be doing what I'm supposed to be doing on those electronic devices, as I was building that skill, having that boundary in place of, you don't really do work in your bedroom, you don't really have your phone in, that helped a lot. Okay, next one is my laptop. After 6:30, nothing really works on it. There's, a couple things that do, but essentially it shuts down every night, and this happens automatically. It shuts down at 6:30, which helps me get to bed on time because then I'm not working late into the evening on projects, and I have this hard boundary, I have this hard stop of I need to finish all of my work before then. And anything else, it can wait until tomorrow. So that helped me not to stay on my laptop doing what I would call work. It was probably just watching YouTube videos or something, calling it learning. But that was very beneficial. Okay, the next one. And this one, it's a bigger gap for most people. But I started cutting out a ton of processed foods. It first started with soda. I realized I don't actually need to eat this. And then more sugar, processed sugars, and then, white flour. And eventually I've moved this direction of eating more natural and whole foods. But really, if you just cut out processed foods and, you know what food, I don't think that you think, Doritos and Dr. Pepper and sugar cookies are good for your health. And so if you cut that off and you go through that process, that will be highly beneficial to you. And I recognize that one is a large jump for most people. And so see, is there anything within your diet that, hey, you don't even maybe want it? Like soda, that was the first thing that I cut, and I didn't even like it that much. And so it wasn't hard for me. And then I saw the fruits of it, I saw the benefits, and I started experimenting with it and seeing how my life improved as I cut more stuff. Okay, the next thing is every time I'm on the ground, I do 10 push-ups. If I'm getting up, I can't just do one push-up to get up, it has to be 10. And this was kind of random, but I realized, hey, if I'm going to be doing this, that's maybe an extra 100 push-ups a day that I'm going to do. And it's going to be marginal gains, but over time, I imagine that one will have some benefits. And it's really not hard. You could set a goal of 2 push-ups, one more than you would have to normally do to get off of the ground. And so that one, strength gain, it's not hard, and you don't have to think about it that much. You just remember, you do the push-ups, whatever number works for you, and then you're done. Okay, and then the next one, this is the last one, is I knew for a while that I needed to get into, prayer and scripture study, because there was this, there's the ideal self, and I wanted to be there, but I didn't really know what that was. I needed strength, I needed guidance. And so turning to God and turning to, the scripture study is something I realized would be important. And so it started out with a habit of, before I go to bed, I have to pray. And then it was non-negotiable, even if it's 20 seconds, even if it's, a minute, however long it is, you got to do something. And then it evolved over time into a habit of, daily scripture study and, multiple prayers throughout the day. And it has helped me to, become the person that I want to be. And I think ending on that of, religion and, one of the main ideas and values that Christ taught of humility, which really ties into this, is you probably have goals for yourself and things that you want to do, but you may not be there yet, of like the capacity you have to change, like going cold turkey into a new habit might not be the route for you. You have to be humble, and you have to look at, what's my actual capacity here, and what step can I actually take? You hear take small changes, make small changes. And I heard this for the longest time, and I wouldn't like it because I would be prideful and I would want to, make these huge leaps, but they wouldn't stick. It was ultimately more foundational changes to the way I live that has had the ultimate benefit over time. And so, don't be ashamed in making small changes, even if you are ashamed in it, that, that's actually where your capacity is at right now. Still do it anyways, right? And I imagine there's an ideal for yourself as well. If, you want to be someone that you're not, you want to be a better version of yourself. And, we're in the process of making that happen. So yeah, those are the 5 habits. No phone in my room. No, my laptop shuts down at 6:30. No processed foods, really. 10 push-ups every time I get off the ground. And then daily prayer and scripture study. And, you don't have to adopt those exact 5 habits, but I would encourage you to start thinking of things you can do, micro changes, micro habits you can adopt that is going to get you in the right direction, right? It's not so much about how big it is, but the direction it takes you. Okay. Be good, be strong, be awesome. Peace out.